Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Picture this scenario because I guarantee you've lived it. It's 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah, the classic Tuesday afternoon.
Right, you're sitting in an open plan office or maybe staring at this grid of faces on a video call, and you were essentially looking at a corporate graveyard.
Just total misery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eyes are glazing over, posture is collapsing. I mean, people are staring blankly at spreadsheets like they're trying to decode some ancient lost language.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And usually we treat this 2 p.m. wall like a personal failure, like a character flaw or a sudden lack of willpower, like someone just isn't dedicated enough to their job.
Right, which is fundamentally backwards. And that misunderstanding, it costs modern businesses an unquantifiable amount of lost focus.
Because we think of ourselves as machines.
Exactly. We've structured the workday around this assumption that human energy is like a light switch. You turn it on at 9 a.m. and flip it off at 5 p.m., but human biology operates on waves, not switches.
It's just not how we're built.
No, not at all. When we try to out-willpower our own physiological design, biology always wins. It's a highly predictable physiological puzzle. And for individuals and businesses really willing to solve it, it gives you a massive competitive edge.
Which is exactly the mission for today's deep dive. We're exploring a really comprehensive article by Felix Römer from smartkeys.org titled Afternoon Slump Cures.
It's a great piece.
It really is. And just to set expectations for you listening, we're not just handing out generic wellness tips about drinking a glass of water and taking a deep breath.
Right. No, this is much deeper.
We're treating this source material as a strategic blueprint. The goal here is future-proofing your work, protecting your cognitive focus, and boosting business efficiency for you and your team.
Because if you're operating in any knowledge-based industry today, your executive function is your primary asset.
Yeah, your brain is the product.
Exactly. So when a massive percentage of a workforce loses their cognitive sharpness simultaneously every afternoon, the drop in creativity and strategic thinking is just staggering.
It's a huge blind spot.
And Romer's analysis traces the root cause of this collective brain fog down to its origin. And that origin is the circadian rhythm.
The internal clock.
Right, the 24-hour internal clock that silently dictates your energy fluctuations, your attention span, everything.
Okay, let's unpack this. Historically, corporate culture has a very specific narrative about midday tiredness.
Oh, definitely.
If you're yawning at your desk at 2:30, the unspoken assumption is that you're not a go-getter. You have a bad work ethic.
Yeah.
So are you saying that by pushing through that exhaustion, we're actually fighting our own evolutionary programming?
We are fighting a chemical tide that has been evolving for millions of years.
Wow.
Yeah. The circadian rhythm is naturally biphasic.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning it's designed with two distinct periods of sleepiness. You have the primary drive for sleep at night, obviously, but the system also has a built-in secondary lull right in the middle of the day.
So it's literally hardwired into us.
Completely.
Yeah.
During this specific window, usually between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., your core body temperature actually drops slightly.
Wait, your temperature drops?
Yeah, just a bit. And that thermal shift signals your brain's pineal gland to start releasing small amounts of melatonin.
A rest hormone.
Exactly, the master rest hormone. It travels through your bloodstream, binding to receptors, essentially telling your organs and nervous system to downshift.
So feeling that heavy blink coming on isn't me failing at my job.
Not at all.
Is my brain functioning perfectly, doing exactly what it evolved to do to conserve energy?
That is the biological reality. But what's fascinating here is the critical distinction we have to make between a normal circadian lull and a much more problematic systemic crash.
Right, because there are levels to this.
Exactly. A typical natural midday dip feels like a soft wave of tiredness, just a slight deceleration in your mental processing speed.
Okay.
But if you're experiencing aggressive, heavy sleepiness like where you're physically struggling to keep your head up or actually dozing off at your desk, that's a different mechanism altogether.
The text was super clear on that.
Yeah, that level of exhaustion signals heavily accumulated sleep debt, massive chronic stress, or deeper underlying health issues.
Right, and if you're constantly exhausted to the point of blacking out at your desk, that's beyond a lifestyle tweak. That requires a conversation with the physician to check for, sleep disorders or thyroid issues.
Absolutely.
But for everyone else, the people dealing with that standard soft biological wave understanding the mechanism kind of changes the entire game.
It shifts you from being reactive to being proactive.
Instead of just gritting your teeth and powering through.
Right. If you know that the melatonin release and the temperature drop are programmed to happen early in the afternoon, You can strategically alter your inputs earlier in the day to cushion that biological drop.
So we manipulate the variables we actually control.
Exactly. To smooth out the wave, so it's just a brief pause
Yeah.
rather than a complete derailment.
Well, let's talk about the most immediate input we control, which is our fuel. Yeah. Because I'll be completely honest, when I have a high-stakes 3 p.m. meeting looming and I feel that wave hitting, my instinct is to grab the largest, most sugary coffee I can find.
Oh, the classic survival tactic.
Yeah, and maybe a pastry from the break room. Why shouldn't you just ride that artificial sugar waves to get through a crucial hour of work?
Because a sugar wave is essentially a physiological payday loan with astronomical interest rates.
That's a terrifying metaphor.
But it's true. When you consume meals or snacks highly concentrated in refined carbohydrates and simple sugars, those molecules cross into your bloodstream almost instantly.
Right.
Your blood glucose levels spike dramatically. Your brain gets this massive temporary rush of energy. But your body views excessively high blood sugar as toxic.
Oh, so it panics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your pancreas panics and pumps out a massive surge of insulin to clear that glucose from your blood and just shove it into your cells.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That insulin surge doesn't just return you to baseline, does it?
No, it overcorrects.
It's like trying to put out a small campfire by dropping an entire ocean on it. You extinguish the fire, but now you have a flood.
That's the exact mechanism of the crash. The insulin pulls the glucose out of your bloodstream so rapidly that your blood sugar plummets below where it was before you even ate the pastry.
Wow.
And your brain, which relies exclusively on a steady stream of glucose to function, suddenly senses an energy famine.
So that's the brain fog.
Yes. Lethargy, irritability, severe brain fog. You've taken a mild, natural circadian dip and weaponized it into a physiological cliff dive.
So we're basically self-sabotaging our afternoons at the breakfast table.
Essentially, yes.
To build a better foundation, the blueprint from Römer is very specific about starting the day with a completely different kind of fuel.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing paper onto a fire for a quick flash, we need to burn a thick oak log that gives off steady heat all day.
Right. And that oak log is a combination of protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates.
Like what specifically?
Starting your day with Greek yogurt, berries, and oats, or maybe eggs paired with whole grain toast, it fundamentally changes the speed of your digestion.
Okay.
The protein and fats act as physical barriers in your stomach. They slow down the breakdown of the carbohydrates.
So you get a slow drip.
Exactly. The glucose enters your bloodstream at a slow, controlled drip. Your pancreas doesn't panic, you don't get the massive insulin surge, and you don't crash later on.
And that strategy carries directly into lunch, which the article argues is the critical tipping point for the entire afternoon.
Lunch dictates the trajectory of your afternoon. The strategy here is stabilization. You want whole grains like quinoa or brown rice paired with lean proteins.
And vegetables. The text made a big deal about making half your plate vegetables.
Yes, physically making half your plate vegetables. We hear eat your vegetables as generic advice all the time, right?
Yeah, since we were kids.
But in the context of cognitive performance, it's strategic fueling. Leafy greens and colorful produce are dense with B vitamins and magnesium.
Why are those so important?
Because at a cellular level, your mitochondria require those specific micronutrients to convert the food you eat into ATP.
And ATP is energy.
Right. It's the actual energy currency your brain uses to think and problem solve.
So it's treating lunch like loading premium, high-grade fuel into a sports car, rather than pouring sugar into the gas tank.
Exactly.
But let's look at a completely invisible variable that mimics a sugar crash perfectly. Hydration.
Oh, this is huge.
Everyone knows they need to drink water, but there was a metric in this deep dive regarding the brain's sensitivity to water that genuinely caught me off guard.
The 2% metric.
Yeah. Explain that, because it's wild.
It really is profound. The data shows that a mild dehydration level of just 2% is enough to actively impair your mood, your memory, and your executive function.
2%. You wouldn't even feel thirsty at that point.
Exactly. It's practically imperceptible. But the human brain is roughly 73% water, and it doesn't have a reservoir system. When you're 2% dehydrated, your blood literally thickens. It becomes more viscous.
Which means your heart has to work harder just to push that thickened blood up to your brain.
Right. And the delivery of oxygen and nutrients slows down.
You're essentially trying to run high-level processing software on a computer that's overheating.
That is exactly what's happening. The electrical signals between your neurons physically slow down. The target to prevent this cognitive throttling is 6 to 8 ounce cups of water across the day.
But the strategy is to front-load it, right?
Yes. Front load those fluids in the morning and early afternoon. Keep a refillable bottle visible on your desk as a visual trigger.
Which brings us to beverage timing, particularly the ultimate crutch of the modern professional, caffeine,
Ah, yes. The late afternoon latte.
the supposed savior of the corporate world.
It's a false savior, though, because of how caffeine actually functions in the brain. It doesn't give you energy.
It doesn't.
No. What it does is block a neurotransmitter called adenosine.
Okay, what is adenosine?
Throughout the day, as your brain works, adenosine builds up and binds to receptors, making you feel sleepy. Caffeine molecules happen to be the exact right shape to plug into those receptors, blocking the adenosine from attaching.
Oh, so it's a disguise.
Right. You feel alert because your brain is temporarily blind to its own exhaustion.
But the adenosine doesn't disappear. It just keeps building up in the background like water behind a dam.
Exactly. And when the caffeine finally metabolizes and wears off, the dam breaks. All that accumulated adenosine floods the receptors at once, causing a massive crash.
That explains so much.
Furthermore, caffeine has a half-life of up to 6 hours. So if you drink a coffee at 4 p.m., half of that caffeine is still actively blocking receptors in your brain at 10 p.m.
Oh, wow, so it ruins your sleep.
It destroys the architecture of your deep sleep. Setting a strict early afternoon caffeine cutoff roughly 6 hours before your targeted bedtime is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to protect tomorrow's energy.
Okay, so let's say you've executed the strategy perfectly. You ate a high-protein breakfast, you had quinoa and a mountain of spinach for lunch.
Yeah.
You were perfectly hydrated, and you cut off your coffee at 1 p.m.
The perfect day.
Right. But biology is still biology.
Right.
That circadian clock is still going to release a little bit of melatonin, and your core temperature is still going to drop.
True.
So when you're sitting at your desk, do everything right, but you still feel the fog rolling in. We need immediate tactical actions.
This is where the strategy shifts from managing your biological inputs to manipulating your physical environment.
Okay.
When that circadian lull hits, sitting perfectly still and attempting to force your brain to focus through sheer willpower is the absolute worst tactical decision you can make.
So what do we do?
You have to change your physical state to cut through the drowsiness. The blueprint introduces a concept called the 2-minute reset.
And I want to clarify this for you listening, because when I first saw a 2-minute reset, my mind immediately went to closing my eyes and meditating.
Right, a lot of people think that.
But the actual protocol is the complete opposite. It's about aggressively raising your heart rate.
Yeah, meditation is highly valuable, but it's not the tool for the specific physiological problem. You need motion.
Like what?
A 2-minute reset means doing something physical. A brisk walk up a flight of stairs, a dynamic stretching routine, or even just doing a set of standing leg raises at your desk.
Just to get the blood moving.
Exactly. These rapid physical actions act as a muscular pump. They immediately force blood circulation back up to the brain, delivering a fresh surge of oxygen and clearing out metabolic waste.
It's the biological equivalent of rebooting a router to clear the cache. You wouldn't expect your laptop to run flawlessly for 10 hours straight if you had 80 different heavy applications running simultaneously.
No, it would freeze up.
Eventually, the memory gets bogged down. You have to hit refresh. Taking 2 minutes to move your body isn't slacking off. It's essential system maintenance.
And you can supercharge that physical reboot by combining it with strategic light exposure.
Light. Like just turning on a lamp.
Well, natural light is best. Light is the primary external cue that dictates your circadian rhythm. When natural sunlight, or very bright indoor light, enters your eyes, photons hit specialized cells in your retina.
Okay, getting scientific.
Bear with me. Those cells send a direct electrical signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in your brain.
And what does that signal do?
That signal acts as an override code. It instantly tells the pineal gland to halt all melatonin production.
Oh. So stepping outside for a few minutes in the afternoon isn't just about getting a breath of fresh air. It's literally an optical override switch. You're using light to hack the hormone production in your brain.
Exactly. If you work in a windowless office or a dark room at home, you're visually telling your brain that it's dusk.
Of course, you feel lethargic then.
Right. You have to engineer your environment. Stand by a brightly lit window. Shift your workspace to a room with better lighting. Take a short walking meeting outside instead of sitting in a dim conference room.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, managing your sensory environment and your physical state is just as crucial for a modern professional as managing your inbox or your project timelines.
Absolutely. Breaking the sensory monotony keeps the brain engaged.
But we have to look at the underlying foundation of this entire system. because you can have the perfect complex carbohydrate lunch, a state-of-the-art standing desk, and flood your office with natural light.
Mm.
But if the foundation is compromised, the entire structure collapses.
Oh, without a doubt.
The bedrock of daytime energy is nighttime sleep.
You cannot out-hack a chronic sleep deficit. Consistent high-quality sleep is the biological prerequisite for daytime executive function.
It's non-negotiable.
Yeah, the mechanism of sleep is when your brain physically repairs itself. It clears out neurotoxins that accumulate during waking hours. The blueprint emphasizes that sleep cannot be treated as a luxury. It's a rigid biological requirement on 7 to 9 hours for adults.
But it's not just the duration,
Yeah.
right? It's the consistency, which brings up a concept from the deep dive that I think secretly sabotages almost everyone listening to this: social jet lag.
Social jet lag is a massive invisible disruptor to human productivity.
Define that for us.
It occurs when you maintain a relatively strict wake-up and sleep schedule during the work week, say waking up at 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, but then on the weekend, you stay up until 2 a.m. and sleep in until 11 a.m.
Guilty as charged.
Most people are.
Yeah.
But by drastically shifting your sleep window, you are violently throwing your central biological clock out of sync with the peripheral clocks in your organs and digestive system.
So by Monday morning, your brain thinks you just flew across 3 time zones, even though you never left your apartment.
Exactly. Your internal timing mechanisms are completely fractured. Your brain is trying to wake up, but your digestive system is still programmed for sleep.
Oh, man.
And when that happens, the 2 p.m. slump hits you like a freight train because your circadian rhythm has no anchor.
So how do we fix it?
The physiological protocol to prevent this is ruthless consistency. You need to stick within 1 hour of your standard wake and sleep times, 7 days a week.
It's treating your biological clock with respect.
Exactly.
And establishing a dedicated wind-down routine is part of that respect. Dimming the overhead lights, lowering the temperature in your bedroom, shutting down the backlit screens, all of these actions deliberately signal the brain that it's safe to begin the melatonin cascade.
Yes.
But again, to reiterate the safety check from earlier, if you're aggressively protecting your sleep schedule, meticulously managing your diet, utilizing the movement resets, and you are still experiencing crushing, persistent fatigue.
That's when the lifestyle protocols stop and the medical protocols need to begin.
Right.
Unresolved chronic fatigue, loud snoring, waking up gasping for air, those could indicate sleep apnea where you're physically starved of oxygen during the night.
Or other things too, right?
Yeah. Anemia, thyroid dysfunction, severe vitamin deficiencies, those can completely override lifestyle optimizations. A physician's diagnostic review is the necessary next step if the biological levers we discussed aren't moving the needle.
So what does this all mean? It means that true business efficiency, the kind of sustained, high-level cognitive output that drives careers and companies forward, doesn't begin when you open your laptop at 9 a.m.
No, it begins the night before.
Right, in the discipline of your sleep hygiene. It's forged in the strategic, low-glycemic choices you make at breakfast and lunch.
You're building an integrated biological system. It starts with recognizing that your energy is finite and must be managed, not endlessly exploited.
Use simple, repeatable routines.
Exactly. Stabilize your blood sugar with complex carbs and protein to prevent the insulin crash. Defend your brain's hydration status by keeping water within arm's reach.
Enforce that early afternoon caffeine cutoff to protect your deep sleep architecture.
And when you feel that natural circadian temperature drop, don't fight it with sheer willpower. Embrace the 2-minute reset. Stand up, elevate your heart rate, and step into bright light.
And for you listening, the key to implementing this blueprint is not attempting to overhaul your entire existence by tomorrow morning.
Oh, please don't try that.
Yeah, if you try to change everything at once, your nervous system will reject it. Try building one single habit at a time. Maybe start tomorrow by simply substituting half of your lunch plate with vegetables, or setting an alarm on your phone for a hard 1 p.m. coffee cutoff.
Small changes.
Right. Small, highly consistent adjustments to your biology will eventually turn that overwhelming, day-destroying afternoon slump into what it evolved to be: just a brief, perfectly manageable pause in an otherwise highly productive day.
This really raises an important question about how we view human capital. When you track your own biological rhythms and apply these targeted mechanisms, you stop being a victim of the midday dip.
You reclaim control.
You reclaim control of your cognitive output by working in harmony with your physiology rather than in opposition to it.
It does make you wonder, though, if human biology naturally and universally dips in the early afternoon across the entire species, Why are we leaving it up to individual employees to secretly hack their way through it?
That is the million-dollar question.
If we want to have a serious conversation about the future of work and maximizing business efficiency, should forward-thinking companies officially restructure the archaic 9-to-5 workday?
I think so.
Imagine a corporate culture that integrates a mandatory 20-minute biological blackout period across the entire organization every afternoon.
At 2.30.
That would be amazing. No meetings can be scheduled, internal chat systems are paused. It's just dedicated, institutionalized time for movement, hydration, and a biological reset. How much more efficient, accurate, and innovative could our businesses be if we actually institutionalized our biology instead of pretending it doesn't exist?
Aligning organizational policy with human evolutionary physiology would likely be the most significant productivity breakthrough since the invention of the personal computer.
It is definitely a powerful concept to think about. The next time you look around that 2 p.m. office graveyard and see everyone trying to painfully force their way through the fog. Instead of judging your team's lack of willpower, maybe it's time to judge the fundamental structure of the workday itself. Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. If you want to dive deeper into the science and read the specific strategies in this blueprint, you really need to read Felix Römer's full analysis. We highly encourage you to subscribe to the podcast to catch all our upcoming insights, and you can find the direct link to the original article right down in the show notes. Keep learning, keep adapting, and we will see you on the next deep dive.